Thanks. It's great to be here. Can you hear me? Oh, now I can hear myself too. So it's great to be here. I have had beautiful conversations with a lot of people. So thank you for letting me talk. Uh, so this is a rather easy to understand project, I hope. It started as an undergrad thesis that then became a master's thesis, and then it was finished by a postdoc, but still kind of easy. So I like testing things, right? So when there's a new tool, I like testing it, but I start with the classic, right? So sequences are growing like crazy. There's more, right now is 290,000 rather than, so those numbers are a little bit old, with 18,000 species and around 30,000 unclassified bacteria in NCBI, bacteria and archaea, and with different levels of completion. And we want to classify those, right? So we want to quickly gather everything that belongs to the same species. And lately, ANI is the tool to use, like average nucleotide identity. And this is how it goes. You cut your genome into little pieces, around 1,000 base pairs. And then you compare those pieces against the second genome using BLAST. And then you gather the ones that do align and calculate the average, as the name implies. So, and for Enterobacterales, in my computers, actually using 3 computers at the same time, it took more than 3 months to calculate for Enterobacterales, use the complete genomes. So I don't like that. It's still faster than doing the experimental hybridization thing, if you think about it, but we are still in a hurry either way. So are there any other ways to do this? And everybody's using this, I'm sure. Everybody's using MASH. I know that JGI is using MASH at least at some stages, and I know that Gold is using MASH at some stages and then refined with ANI. And this is how this actually works. They don't do this, right? They actually sample a few k-mers. Think about it, a few k-mers, like 1,000 k-mers, around 21 base pairs to represent the genome, right? And then they codify them into hashes, and it's a computer thing, which are very easy to compare. They compare, and based on how many they find in common, they estimate how similar the genomes are. So they say it calculates an ANI distance, okay? And the more in common, the more similar the genomes. That's what this says. And to be completely open and honest, well, this runs super fast, right? About 1 hour, less than an hour. I thought there's no way this shit is going to work. Completely open. So hopefully the developer is not here. But we still had to try, right? So we try separating species in Enterobacteria with ANI, and that's what we get. So the closer you are to 1, the better it is. So if you have 1, it means it's perfect separation of species, and that's ANI. So I thought, now I'm going to laugh. But here's what we got with MASH and dashing, which do similar things, still 0.99. More than 3 months, less than an hour. And you get exactly the same quality of separation, only a different threshold to cut the species. That's the OCP is the threshold. So still there's a few problems. For example, one problem is that we have overrepresentations of some species. E. coli is the most abundant, so 70% of the same species pairs are just E. coli, right? And between the 3 first ones, is like 99% of the same species pairs. So we had to fix that. So we subsampled from those so that they would have kind of the same number, the first 10 species at least, right? 100 times. And this is how much it varies. We do it 100 times. So with Annie, the AUC reduced from 0.99 to 0.925-ish, around that. MASH and dashing are on the same numbers, right? MASH seems to be better, actually, than Annie, which is surprising. So I had to swallow my words. And the cutoff, the optimal cutoff varies depending on the program. So you just have to be aware of that. Now, okay, so that's after cleaning, but what happens actually within each genera, right? Might have a different behavior. So we run that. And for example, and the same will be true for the other ones, right? So for Annie, Citrobacter is very hard to separate into species. It sucks. It sucks for Shigella, but Shigella is a special case that we will talk about later. But interestingly, the thresholds for the different genera are different. So that's something I didn't know. And there was a big analysis with Fast Annie where they claim that there might be a genetic threshold, like a natural threshold for species, based on how well the species separate from the genera. If there is, it's a different one for every species. And for some species, the work is not so good. Here we have MASH. It's exactly the same situation and exactly the same quality. And the same was true for dashing, but I don't present it because it's exactly like MASH. These are the quality for the different genera numbers. As you can see, it varies. Like Proteus is 0.99. For Escherichia, it's perfect. And for Klebsiella, it's really good. By the way, Klebsiella is the best represented genus in the database, right? So if you want to make tests, that's the best way to go. Though in Klebsiella, Annie has been involved, so they have used Annie to better define their species. So it's like cheating a little bit, except that it works just exactly as well with MASH. The special case, E. coli and Shigella. So I learned when I was a little kid, when I was younger, so much younger than today, that Shigella is E. coli by any other name. It just smells as bad. And interestingly to me, like this was surprising to me, but maybe not for those who do know about Shigella, but Shigella can be separated from E. coli really well using almost any measure of distance that I have used, separates Shigella into different groups, except for a few cases. Wherever you see different colors there, it's a different species mixing with E. coli, a different name mixing with the other names. And at some threshold, we can separate Shigella really well into the 4 species with just a few contaminants. But this is true for MASH, for Annie, and from dashing. So just for good information. And if we go outside Enterobacterales, same situations, different species have different thresholds. So different genera have different thresholds for the separation of species and genera, but the quality is really, 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 really good. This is in numbers, most of them above 0.95 in the area under the curve analysis. So in conclusions, mean hash, which is MASH, and hyperlog-log, which is the algorithm used by Diamond, are just as good as Annie for species delimitation. Genome-based delimitations are highly accurate, species in different genera have different dissimilarity thresholds. That's all, folks.
Hey, so for fast ANI, my understanding of it, which may be wrong, is that it has MASH built in as like the first step, or MASH map. I don't know if that's the same as MASH. And then from there, it goes into more of the like ANI. So is it actually like combining the ANI and MASH, or is it doing something different?
Okay, I hope again that the developer is not here. But yeah, what they do is they cut the genome into pieces, as with Annie, but instead of doing the alignment, they do a mash thingy, a min hash thingy with this piece and the whole genome, right? So it kind of saves time, but not that much really. Like there's programs that do better, and they do alignments, right? You could do it with, there's a tool called BLAT. I tried several things. BLAT is super fast for very similar sequences, super incredibly fast. So it's just a matter of adopting some other software rather than BLAST, and we could do better than Fast Annie. But you're right, it uses a MASH thingy, but just to calculate the similarity between the fragments and the genomes. Mm-hmm. So it still takes us almost as long as with BLAST.
One more quick question. So thanks for your talk. That was great. Just the problem people keep thinking about once in a while, like how to delineate species, genera, and so on. And we've seen for bacteria in general, like something like maybe 95% cutoff or 97%. We have different cutoffs that can get evaluated. And you see it varies depending on the group we're looking at. Now, what is the opinion of people here in the room or in general? What should we be doing for eukaryotes? Because, I mean, it should be pretty straightforward in theory to run a pairwise ANI comparisons. Oh, maybe I'm taking something away from Ariana's talk, but I'm just curious if people would be shocked if we start with, oh, let's say eukaryotes, we can do 95%. No, I mean, seriously, has anyone tried just applying this 95% ANI threshold?